Okay. Whoever may not know me, there's a few people here I don't recognize. But my name is Eric Miklich. I'm with currently the Brooklyn Experts. I ran the program at Beth Page Village Restoration for 10 years, and everybody should know here in this room that program in 1979 spawned everything they're doing today. Does everybody understand that? Everything was at Beth Page. I also was the historian for the VBBA for 4 years, from 09 through, I guess, 13. And I was a trustee from 06 to, whatever, 2010. I have a book coming out in June, and what else, Ted? What else do you want to say?
He's the all-time expert on all things baseball related.
So, today, I want to go over pitching. I'm going to talk about some history of some players, some rules, what went on. Because as I've played and moved around the country, because I've been to Ohio, I played I did an exhibition for Doug in Minnesota, played down in Maryland, Delaware area. Pitching is different. It's not consistent, which doesn't mean it's bad. However, some things that occur are not correct. So, the thing in baseball, what people say is, hey, pitching is everything. Whether you have a starter, reliever, that's the whole game. They say pitching is a game. And if you look in the history of baseball, especially with one particular person in the early game, that is absolutely true. Can anybody tell me who I may be referring to? Very early in baseball history. Before him. Right. And does anybody know why I say that? The specific statistics why he proved early on that pitching was the key. Anybody want to take a guess? Before he got to the Brooklyn Excelsiors, they were a good team. Now, on my website, I also own 19C Baseball. I have a website which is free, absolutely free, as everybody knows, and you should go there. The information is free. It's 500 pages. I just want to read one little excerpt from there, which will help prove what I'm saying about pitching with this gentleman. Before he got there, they were a good team. Everybody knows he had a lot of speed, he had control, which was very, very rare for that period. But also, what allowed him to do what he did was his catcher. Anybody know his catcher's name? No. We'll come back to that. Think about that. But when he got to the Excelsiors, and how he got there was he went through 3 teams in 2 years, so it was well known that he might have been the first paid player lefty. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
So someone moving that quickly in that period, he probably got paid. And maybe a couple of dollars, but he got paid. So the Excelsiors play the Brooklyn Stars. They just beat the Brooklyn Stars, and now the next year, Creighton's playing for them. Now, when Creighton got to the Excelsiors, that first year they were 19-2. The opponents only scored 7.9 runs against the Excelsiors that year. Now, what I wrote on our website is that they only let up 10 runs 3 times and never let up 20. If you look at the other teams during that period, the next best team was the Brooklyn Experts. They were 15-2, and they allowed their opponents 10 runs or more 13 times. So, in 21 games, he didn't pitch every game. He pitched in all the games, but he didn't start the game. He only let 7.9 runs a game with no gloves. And everybody can attest to here they played games where it's 20-2, 20-15, high-scoring games. So you say, well, how does a guy like that make such an impact on the team? He comes to a team that is good. However, he is exceptional. And he's exceptional because he has 2 things. And I just mentioned before. Does anybody want to say what he has?
Speed and control.
Speed and control, which was never seen at that point ever. There was a gentleman by the name of Thorne who played early on where the Knickerbockers played, who apparently had a lot of speed. But he didn't have control because the reports, and Peter Morris, is Peter Morris here? In one of his books, he writes that the batters were afraid of him because he was throwing the ball over the place. So that could be good if you have controls, and you can use that to your advantage. But if you don't have any control, it's not useful at all. there were a lot of pitchers that started to emulate him, such as Asa Brainerd. He played it with him on the Excelsiors. Cherokee Fisher threw fast. And as the game progressed, the rules makers decided, wow, some of this stuff is overbearing, and what they did was they constantly battled between the balls and strikes, the pitching distances, all to, I think, hurt the pitcher, because they didn't want a pitcher-dominated game. But through most of the early part of the 19th century, when I say the early part from 18, you want to say, let's say 57 through 1870, it was 3 balls and 3 strikes. Is that right? Anybody?
No, we didn't have balls and strikes.
Well, really?
1858.
No balls and strikes in 1858?
No, it was strikes if you move whiff, but balls at the umpire.
Don't forget, strikes were allowed to be called in what year?
By 1864.
That's
No.
strikes in 57,
Oh, strikes at the whiff.
allowed to be called by the umpire.
The umpire had the option of calling.
Right. Well, but I say he could call them, right? And that's what
the warning.
that's what I mean. He could call them. And then
Oh, yeah.
balls in what year?
No.
Who said that? You think you're a smart guy, right?
Yes, sir.
He's right. He's right. Vic is right. Yeah, they did that because there have been reports of batters standing around doing nothing. And in fact, when there was a historic match in 1860 between the Atlantics and the Excelsiors, went 5 innings. That was the 3rd game of that series, which was to determine the champion for 1860. I still say that the Excelsiors were, because they held the lead 8-6, but they stopped the game after 5 innings. Each pitcher threw over 300 pitches, and the accounts are some of the batters took 70 pitches. That's ridiculous. Now, that brings a point up which I want to lead into today, and we've had discussions. There's some listservs out there. Everybody's certainly can join. It's on Yahoo. There's a couple of them, and one of the talks is about calling balls and strikes. And when you or your teams here are playing, do your umpires regularly call balls and strikes? Anybody can answer. No. Okay. You say no.
No.
What year do you portray?
62.
62. So why doesn't he call strikes? It would be accurate if he did.
He will call a warning if you're up there too long and you're letting enough decent hurls pass by.
Okay.
But usually we have strikers who are anxious and they'll swing before you get to that point.
All right. Does anybody here have on their club or play clubs that a person just stands there and takes pictures?
This
Now,
happened.
okay. Now, that's fine. You could do that for a reason. And what would that reason be? Lefty, you may know.
Trying to advance a runner.
Lefty, see the smart guy. Right. But if no one's up on base, why would you stand there and take
We're out the pitcher.
ball after? How is that for the crowd?
Terrible.
How's that for the players?
Boring.
Okay. So what I would say, encourage your umpires to maybe move the game along a little bit quicker. All right. Now, I'm going to jump ahead here to the 70s. Has anybody here ever heard the term back through the box?
Yes.
He hit a ball back through the box. You're shaking your head. Now you're in trouble because I'm going to pick on you.
Yeah.
Okay. Why is that term used today? And where did it arise from?
The pitching box. There was a pitching box.
What year?
I have no idea.
Okay. You have your pen and paper?
Yeah.
Write this down. 1874. The pitcher's box. It progressed from, of course, one line. Everybody knows most people have played 1860 here. If you played then, if you go to 1863, there's 2 lines. And why was that second line added? Let me see if I can pick on Pee-wee. Why was that second line added in 1863?
No idea.
No idea. Okay. It was because to reduce the speed of the pitcher. Because people were emulating Craig. Then, as the batters started to catch up with the pitchers, they allowed a little more room, expand the box, and then in 74, they make a box 6x6. The pitcher starts and stops in, and he can run around. So that's where the term he hit it through the box, meaning if you hit it back up the middle, it goes actually through a box. Now, the pitcher during that period, up until 1887, could really move the game along himself. And why I say that, why do I say he could really keep the game moving himself? Can anybody here want to guess why I'm saying that? He could keep the game moving. I'm not going to ask Lefty because he's too smart.
Well, he
I'm
had
gonna
the
ask
ball,
Pops.
he had the ball most of the time.
He did, but Pops, why was the pitcher able to keep the game moving? One distinct advantage he had over the batter.
He was able to start throwing the ball in a way to, I guess, deceive them.
Right. Well, he never had a set.
Yeah.
Does everybody understand that? Do you do that when you play? Does your pitcher get the ball? If you're playing a game with there's two lines, 63 and above, does he get the ball and return the ball to the batter? Or does he wait until the batter's ready?
Are you talking about quick pitching?
Not quick pitching, because
No,
the pitcher never had to
He's
set.
getting the
What I'm
ball,
saying is that how you guys portray the game? The pitcher gets it, you stay between the lines, you throw it right back. Or do you wait until the batter's ready?
You don't have to
I wait.
Why? Do you like the batter?
I play by 1858 rules.
Uh,
No, I want to be comfortable. I'm not comfortable unless I'm
Okay.
I don't care about the batter.
Okay, well, let's think about this. And we'll use the box in 74 as an example because there's more room in case the catcher doesn't throw the ball right to him. Get a little room there to get the ball. If, as a batter, you constantly have to be alert, to be prepared to hit the ball, it wears you down. So, what I mean by that is, let's say lefty's at bat, okay? Pops is catching. I throw the ball, Pops throws it back, I throw it right back to the lefty. Pops throws the ball to me, I kind of stutter, I throw it to lefty. He's always got to be ready, and he's always ready to hit. If you see what happens today, they take a pitch, the guy adjusts his hat, spits, looks around, gets back in there. There's no deception in the games. That's why the games take 4 hours. But the pitcher in the 19th century, up until 87, could really use that to his advantage to help deceive the runner and the batter. And with that, the rules makers would expand the pitching distance and change the balls and strikes to try to cut down that advantage. And that currently, that happened so much in the 19th century. There was a balance between batter and hitter. So let's go to 74. Most of the people in here play 1860s with quotes, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. I would encourage you to try other forms, such as 1873, where every ball except the first pitch was called, and it was 3-3. No warnings. It's something you can try. It's underhand pitching. You get a little bit of side, not much. You all come out a little bit here. In the 72, they allowed the pitcher, his pitching, to come a little bit like this. So and of course, you progress to overhand, which we'll get to. The 74 was a crazy year, and I don't know why the rules makers did this. So I only last this one season. They had things called wides and unfair pitches. So,
Professor,
yes, sir.
quite likely they borrowed that from cricket.
Well, of course, a lot of it.
Wides and unfair pitches are part of their game.
Yes.
So,
And there's no doubt about that, they probably did. 74, this is what happened. You had a wide ball, which was any ball that was not able to be hit. That was a ball. Straight ball. Then you had unfair, which was not at what for 1874? Does anybody know what happened in 1871? The batter could what?
Call his own pitch.
Call his zone.
Strike zone.
Yes, so, is everybody aware of that here?
I didn't know that.
You didn't know that?
Nope.
All right, I'm quick before I get there because 74 is so wacky, but does everybody understand that prior to 1871, the batter got up to the line? I say line, right? Also, write this down. First batter's box, 1874. 6x3, 1 foot off the plate. You got that?
What year?
1874. The strike zone, and lefty, I know in the past we have discussions. The strike zone, from what I read and interpret for the 1860s or up until 71, was about mid-shin to about top of the head. Would you agree? Wherever the bat could reach. does everybody understand that dish doesn't determine balls and strikes? The guy has a 42-inch bat. I use a 40, so if I use a 40-inch bat when I'm up there, the plate's over there. Over here, that would be a strike. The umpire should see where the batter stands and what kind of a bat he's using. Okay, so that would determine balls and strikes. Now I lost my train of thought. So in '71, the batter was enabled to call his pitch when he got to the line. Meaning, if he wants a low pitch, it's from mid-shin to waist. And then if he wants a high pitch, it's waist to shoulders. And it was true shoulders. So let's go to 74. I was talking about how wacky it is. Any ball that the bat could not reach was a wide. An unfair pitch was a pitch not thrown at the height called for by the batter. So if Gary calls for a low pitch, meaning shin to waist, and I throw waist to shoulder, that's a wide. 3 wides equal the ball. So not only do you have to be an umpire, you have to be a mathematician. What the hell is going on? Think about it. It's maddening. You know, I got wide, that's 2 balls, and unfair. He still doesn't walk because you still haven't reached it. It's crazy. And it must have drove pitchers nuts too, because umpires they were not required to call every ball pitched in '74. The next year, what did they do? They eliminated the wides. However, in their grand scheme of things, they said, well, you have to make 3 consecutive unfair pitches to be a ball. So I could throw 2 balls and a strike, 2 unfairs and a strike, and then the next one's unfair, but it's not ball 1 because it wasn't consecutive. That must have been disgusting too. Helping to lengthen those games. Terrible. So what happened was in '76 they had just straight on 9 balls, and you had 3 strikes with a warning. The warning stayed around, which I have in my notes here, until 1881. They were calling a warning on strikes. Does everybody understand what a warning is? For the striker and a warning for the pitcher?
I'm assuming if you warn the striker, that means the next pitch, if it's similar, it's going to be a strike.
Yes.
And if you warn the pitcher, and you warn them, if it's not pitched in a strike, in a hitting area, it'd be considered a ball.
Yes. Yes. Does everybody understand that? So you could, as a batter, at the umpire's discretion, right? As a batter, you can swing and miss at 2 pitches, even up until, as I said, 70, 79, and still not strike out the next pitch because you didn't receive a warning. That's, for a pitcher, that's also maddening. Now I mentioned that in 72 you could come outside your plane, which was from your shoulder, sort of a pendulum swing, you could come out a little bit, and you would get a little more speed. So soon after that, what do you think the rules makers did to the pitchers once they gained a little speed? What's that? Ah, very good. So we start at what's your first initial pitching distance when the game begins? Let's say 1857 because that's when it was first defined. Does everybody understand 1857? The rules defined for 45 feet from home base till the front line of the pitcher's mark. So you say they moved them back. Do you know how far they moved them back? 5 feet to 50 feet. So they move the pitcher gets speed. They move the pitcher back, which is disconcerting for me because the closer I am and the harder I throw, the more it hurts, right? So, not for me, because I'm not getting hit.
I was worried about your catcher.
Yeah, right, well, hey listen, I go through a lot of catches. I don't know, no sympathy for them.
And I'm not catching.
Yeah, you couldn't catch for me. Not only that, the only thing you know about pitching is that you can't hit it. So, I don't know. So,
Playing the pitcher, Pops.
yeah, so the distance moves back. I'm gonna go back to lefty on this. Well, you know what? Lefty, hold up. The distance moves back. The catcher is now. Something happens in 1875 to give the catchers some more confidence. To Who said it?
Gloves or pads or some kind of.
Oh, that's one thing.
Catcher's mask.
Who said that? What's your name?
Mike.
Mike. Who invented the catcher's mask? Now you're in big trouble.
Very quickly.
No, I was close. I was. You got in the under just before me.
Yeah.
Sarah, or is he the first one to wear it? Yeah.
Jimmy Ting. He was in. He played for what school? School. Very good. Harvard. Played for Harvard. And what did he take? What did he modify to make?
Fencing mask.
Very good, Mike. Man, you're quick. You know that. Where are you from, Mike?
Worthington, Ohio.
Ohio? I thought it was New York the way you answered it. That was good. Yeah. That was really good, Lefty. What do you think?
He's on top.
I know the humans, yeah, even after the humans, because they're usually right in on me.
I don't answer stuff I think you want to hear an answer.
Okay, so.
I'm not one of your plants like Lefty.
I just met the guy. What are you kidding me?
I don't even know the guy.
So this catcher's mask comes out, and someone, Gary mentioned gloves, someone here mentioned the glove, they have a little glove. So the catcher gets some confidence to give the pitcher some more confidence to throw faster. Okay? And what the rules makers do, they were kind to the pitchers. In 1880, they dropped it to 8 balls and 3 strikes from 9. So it went from 3 and 3 all the way to 9, down to 8 and 3. And that year, they also began to call every single pitch that was thrown a ball or a strike. That's the first time that occurred, which is probably a godsend to not only the fans, but also the pitcher. Can anybody tell me when the pitchers started to throw, not overhand, but true sidearm?
84.
No. Anybody else? Where's my buddy with the notebook here? What year?
No idea.
Okay. You play mostly 60s?
58.
58. Okay, it's a good class for you because you can talk. You can tell other people as you talk to them, hey, this is how it progressed. But you would only play underhand before, right? Well, what happened was, as pitchers always do, they cheated. And in the second half of the 1882 season, they began to throw the ball, release it above their waist. They were having true sidearm coming above their waist, and the umpires were not enforcing that rule, and it caused a lot of problems. So, what did the rules makers do for the 1883 season? Can anybody take a guess?
Move the mound back.
Not yet.
Not yet?
Not yet. They did something else. They said, okay, you can release the ball above your waist or below your shoulder. And the pitchers forced that. What happened in the second half of the 1883 season? Anybody?
Somebody.
I heard that. Well,
Started to go above the shoulder.
there you go. What's your name?
Mark.
Martin, where are you from?
It's Mark. I'm from
I'm sorry, Mark, where are you from?
Columbus area, South Columbus.
Okay, you must, because you're really quiet. You're nervous. Don't be nervous. You wearing a hat like that, don't be nervous. Okay, so, the second half of the 83 season, as my buddy here said, they came above the shoulder, and the umpires, they didn't enforce it. And what happened in 1884? Anybody in the National League? Remember, there's 2 leagues. What happened in 1884? What they say for the pitching? What could they do? No restriction. There's a difference because I can't use lefties because they're going to make fun of me. Because there was a World Series in 1884 between anybody. Can anybody tell me? Now, the reason why I'm bringing all these facts out is because if you, as a group here, are talking to your spectators, your fans, your cranks, your bugs, your bees, you can tell them, oh, we play this, but this is how, and they keep them interested in the game instead of just seeing the same game all the time. You can tell them, hey, this occurred. So, during that 1884 World Series, 2 teams played, and that was, I guess, the true first World Series, although in 1882, 2 teams played, American Association and National League played, but they didn't consider World Series. Anybody can mention the 2 teams that played?
Philadelphia Athletic.
No. Someone said Providence, and someone said the Mets. Yes. Now, who is pitching for Providence? Radborn. He throws underhand sometimes. You did. So it's important that we tell people, hey, in 1884, the National League, it's important you say they removed all pitching restrictions. They didn't say you could throw overhand. They removed all restrictions. However, the American Association at the time still had the rule of releasing the ball below the shoulder. Is everybody also aware there were two businesses in 1882? National League started in what year?
1876.
And the American Association?
1883.
Two, which was competitive business. Now, when you talk to your I want to just sidetrack for a moment. When you talk to your fans, what year did the first professional league start? It's important you know this.
71.
Yes. Again, like in New York, they just yelled it out like 71. That's the first professional league in history. And please, make sure that your fans know that. So they remove all pitching restrictions after 1884 in the National League. The American Association holds on, and what they did was they also start changing balls. Now it's 7-3 in the American Association. I'm sorry, National League and American Association was 6-3 because the rules makers were kind to the pitchers. They also were kind to them on one other instance. When you play 1860, when you play 1858 ball, and the pitcher hits you with the ball, what happens?
They say they're sorry.
They say they're sorry. Boy, they're not me, are they? Oh, man.
He giggles uncontrollably.
I call delay a game on the batter.
You do?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
As a prank.
All right, let's put on a prank. Oh, I think you're being serious.
No, I do, and I find it.
Okay, well, let's talk about that quickly. A batter was not given his base on balls until what year when he was hit by a pitched ball? Lefty, be quiet. I can't hear you.
I'm always quiet. I'm here to learn.
Okay.
I thought they had two, I thought.
Okay. And the American Association was the first league to allow the batter to take his base in 1884 on a hit batsman. Now, I want to quickly say something. What you said, if the ball hits the batter, you fine him. Now, as a pitcher, they used to use that as intimidation. You understand that? Okay. Now, certainly, guys like Zetland used to use it. Dick McBride, who played with Philadelphia, who you may have heard, he was a slower pitcher, but Cherokee Fisher threw fast. I'm mentioning all 60s and 70s guys, so you guys can say that they threw fast and they intimidated guys. Now, there's one important thing that as players and as an umpire you should understand, that the pitcher can use that as intimidation, and if the batter is hit by a ball, is it dead or alive?
Live.
But
It is, absolutely. However, it's not live if what thing occurs?
The ball ends foul.
No.
The batter doesn't make an attempt to.
That was more in 1887, but you're close. So what happens if the batter leans into the ball?
Rule 20 says that it's still alive, and the batsman cannot touch the ball.
Rule 20 for what year?
1858.
Okay. Let's come up to the.
It's controversial today, so
Let-
should the interpretation of it back
Well,
then.
no, it's the rules are specific. If I throw a ball and Doug leans into it, yeah. He what is he?
an extension of the bat.
Technically, he's out because what is he doing?
Struck.
He's up. So, who said that?
Sure.
Rich. You said he obstructs. Who is he obstructing?
The catcher.
Exactly. Right. It's very important you guys know that. And even when you play your 60, 61, 62 game, if the batter steps into a ball, he's supposed to be called out because it's obstructing a catcher or a fielder from making a play on the ball. How the hell did I get to that point? What was I talking about? Hit batsman. So let's get back to pitching. So that was a very sad year for me.
Real quick, who?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Who would have called for the pitcher to throw at the batter? Would it have been the catcher or the pitcher
Well,
deciding to do it?
All right, Lefty brings up a very, 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 very important point. If you closely read newspaper articles from the 60s, the reporters, I can't say they really knew the game, they reported on the game, but if you sometimes look and read real close, the pitcher called the game. he called what he was going to throw and where. So, to get back to your point, the pitcher would have called what he was going to do, but if the batter may pick up a pattern and sort of lean in a little bit to stop and to distract him, and he should be out. But the pitcher, it's very important, the pitcher called the game. He decided what he was going to throw. And listen, what did they have back then? Fastball and changeup. And what Craig used to use, anybody know? A real slow changeup was called a dewdrop. That's what he called his real slow pitch. They come in and just kind of drop behind. More like, I guess, today, softball, arc softball.
That's my fastball.
That's your fastball. I like the facial. Now, so 84 was a sad year for me as a pitcher because the American Association allowed the batter to take his base when he got hit by a ball. The National League left. They, what you said before, we'll get to it. Well, we go now, 87. What happens in 1887? Two things occur to make the game. They really killed the pitcher that year. Two things occurred to make it to almost what we see today. Anybody?
Went back to 68, 4 and 35 and 60.
No, they moved it back though. Now we're at 50 over here. Right? He said moved it back, so we're at 50. Now we're at 55 and a half feet. Okay? But that's the back line. What else happened that year?
4 and 3.
Not in 87. No. Not yet.
The umpire's
That's no. What they did was prior how many people here pitch regularly? Not just one guy threw a game. How many people here pitch regularly? One guy in the whole room? Come on. You pitch regularly. Okay. The Schumann, I'm gonna count the Schumann. That's not pitching. What do you call that?
I love the
That's T-ball. That's T-ball. I don't know what that is. That's just pitching. So, okay. So, when I mentioned before, pitching up until you said what happens? The guy gets the ball to throw it right back, couldn't he? As long as he's between the two lines or within the box, he can get it right back. But what happens in 87? That ended baseball for me right there. The pitcher gets the ball back from the catcher. He's got to have now the box is 4.5 feet by 6, right? The back line is 55.5 feet to home base, not the front line. He's starting from 55.5 feet. He's back, so he's in a T position. I'll just come here, say there's a little line here. His foot is here. His other foot's facing. Excuse my back, I'm sorry. And he's got the ball, and he has to show the ball to the batter. So it'd be like this. Between every pitch, he's got to stop. Every single pitch. Does everybody understand that? Every pitch, he has to stop. Not only did they move the pitcher back that year, not only did they make him stop that year, what happened with balls and strikes that year, which is ridiculous. It's ridiculous in the sense that they went back to the 60s and brought something forward. What was the balls and strikes count for 1887? Anybody?
6.
What was that? You again? Say, look, you could be wrong. Doesn't matter.
6 and 4.
5 and 4. So what they did was they moved him back, stopped him, and now he's going to throw 4 strikes. So really, if you look at it, they took the warning that was used in the 60s and 70s, now made that another strike instead of warning. It's really the same thing, isn't it? And were foul ball strikes in 1887? Anybody? Were foul balls strikes in the 19th century? Anybody?
No,
Not by themselves, no.
Okay, you're almost wrong. Okay, because as a pitcher, in 1887, they moved me back 5 feet, made me stop between every pitch. They add a strike to me. But they did do one thing, but I don't know of any documented evidence that it was ever used. They actually allowed the umpires to call a strike if the batter constantly fouled off pitches. So think about it. That's really the first time. What's that?
We've got a player that hits foul balls. What would you say, about 85, 90% of the time?
Yeah,
About 90% of the time. He hits more foul balls than anybody who's played as
And that's
yeah.
on purpose?
He'd be in trouble. No, not on purpose.
Oh, not on purpose?
No.
Well, I was
No,
thinking,
we wish. We wish.
is he
Eric,
righty
no.
or lefty?
Yes, no, neither.
Actually, you don't have any answer there.
Are you suggesting this?
He needs new glasses.
You played against Barber, I'm sure. Yeah, he'd be in trouble back then. He'd be in real trouble.
That's interesting.
He once hit a ball through the goal posts of the football field next to the soccer field where we were playing. Behind, like,
180 yards away.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
90 degrees.
Well, I have to ask this question. How did the batter face the pitcher? Is the pitcher behind him? Like, what the hell happened there?
He swings early.
It's just.
Okay.
You have to see it to believe it.
All right. I'm going to end at 87 because I want to take questions. Anybody has questions? So, in 87, as I said, move the pitcher back to 55.5 feet. He has to stop, and they increase the strikes to 4. It's 5 balls, 4 strikes to make this long games, right? With foul balls, I don't think they ever called it. It is written in the rules. And you said 4 and 3, which started in what year?
I thought 1902.
No, God, 1902.
Yeah, I thought it
No.
was later.
Anybody else? When did we get to the balls and strikes count that we use today?
93,
No.
91.
No.
92.
All right.
Right here,
87. No, 80. No, it's 89. 4 and 3. Okay. So you understand the pitching. I want to quickly review, and I have some statistics here. I think you'd be interested in some pitches things that occurred. Sidearm pitching, sort of sidearm pitching, began in 72, a little bit. Above the waist pitching began in what year? He's writing notes. 82, maybe. Yes. Full pitching in the National League was 84. 87, both leagues used the same rules and was open pitching. You may, if you play mostly 60s, you may not be aware of some of these statistics, but I'll just quickly read this. I'm going to take questions. These are some things. There's so many more. I just picked out a few people. Things you may not be aware of. Will White. Anybody heard of Will White? He holds the record for the most innings pitched in a season. Can anybody guess how many innings this guy pitched in one season?
420.
You are not even close.
600.
Closer. 680 innings. Now put that together. Now this is important. 680 innings. Lefty. With foul balls called in 1879 when he pitched 680 innings.
So, yeah, I would say no.
Right. So how many times this guy have to throw the ball? And in 79, right, it's 9-3, and there's no foul balls. He threw 680 innings. How many pitches do you think he threw? Guys today would never have careers that would even attain that. And they still make $70 million. It's a joke. He also started 75 games that year and completed 75 games. This is true. This is you can look all this stuff up. Absolutely, this is true. He was 43 and 21. I don't remember this. That's why I'm writing it down. I couldn't remember the stuff. He was 43 and 21 that year for the 5th place team. His ERA was 1.99. Now ERA to me during the 19th century is ridiculous because I think every time there's so many errors. I don't know how you can come up with that number. That's ridiculous.
What was his pitching style? How did he throw?
Well, Jesus Christ, you just went over it. 79. How was he throwing? That's the whole purpose of this thing. Oh my God. 79. Anybody? The man with the book. 79. Tell him. On the hand. And he's come a little side. Yeah. So, 76, the National League starts. It's side-on pitching. Does everybody understand that's an overhand? Here's something else. After that season in 79, Will White, in 1888, he lost 42 games. I wonder why. And that's the second all-time losses for a pitcher. So he pitches 680 innings in 79, and 80 loses 42 games. Shock. Really. One of my favorites, Al Spalding. Everybody heard of him?
Yeah.
And does everybody know that he was a pitcher first before he was an entrepreneur?
Yes.
Is everybody aware of that? You're not aware of that? You never heard of Spalding? Well, I'm serious. No, I'm not being funny. You never heard of Spalding? Okay. He was a pitcher. His first great accomplishment was in 1867. He beat the Washington club, the Olympics, that made their Western tour, came out this way. They beat every team but his team. He was 17 years old at the time. This team was pounding team 103 to 10. He beat them 29 to 23. He's 17 years old. With a club that only had Ross Barnes on it, which was a second baseman later on played together professionally. He was the only pitcher to win back-to-back 50-win seasons. 74 he wins 52. 75 he wins 54 games. Never happened before in Major League Baseball history. Now, us as historians and players have to understand that he pitched most of the games, and today you have 5-man rotation. One guy gets a hangnail, you have a 6-man rotation. One guy gets a haircut, you have a 7-man rotation. You know what I'm saying? These guys, they pitch, okay? His winning percentage, his career winning percentage is, somebody take a guess.
850.
Close. 795. He was 252 and 76. That's the best all time. Best except for Matthew. Anyway. Who was the first pitcher to win 25 professional games? Anybody?
But Galvin.
How Galvin?
I don't throw in the name. I want to see that name.
What am I talking about right now?
Spalding.
Here's the parallel there. Who was the first professional pitcher to win 50 professional games? This is like Pavlov would be happy. He would be thrilled. Who was the first pitcher to win 100 professional games?
Spalding.
Who was the first professional pitcher to win 150 games?
Spalding.
Who was the first professional pitcher to win 200 games? And 250. And you know what he did? Because the game changed so much, he quit and he started his business in '78 and really went and sold a lot of stuff. Obviously, he did. Charles Radbourn, I mentioned him earlier, pitched in the first World Series 1884. Everybody should know this. You should know this when you talk to your fans because it's an impressive number. I'm not going to ask Lefty again. I'm going to pick on someone else. Pick. 59. Well, how many games did Radbourn win for the Providence Grays in 1884 for the National League Club? You have 2 answers. I'll take 2 answers. Yeah, right. My buddy Ed Icorn's book is here. He won.
59.
Everybody says 59, could be 60, yes. But imagine that. This guy won 59 games or 60. I don't want to go into that here. There's a discrepancy. The writers and the scorers had a choice of awarding a win or not, depending on when the pitcher came in. It's not like today. So what happened that day was Charles Sweezy, who was an alcoholic, refused to pitch. Rast comes in. They win the game with him there, but the writers did not give him the win. They gave it to Sweezy for whatever reason, so he had 59. He pitched 23 straight games. 23 straight games. Just think. Now, this is 84. We go back to 79. Will White pitched 75 games. Not in a row, because there were other pitchers. But this guy pitched 23 in a row, and his ERA of 138. I don't care about that. That ERA is terrible. But 59 wins. Think about that. 59 wins. That's, wow. It's a lot of wins. The guy, a little obscure guy people don't know about, named Augustus Wayne. Gus Wayne. He's the first professional pitcher to win 30 games in 3 leagues. Can anybody tell me the leagues?
American Association.
That's, of course.
Western League.
No. Professional.
Okay, National League.
Yeah, one other.
The Players League.
There you go, Players League. Does everybody here know in 1890 there was a Players League? Okay. And there's one guy here. There's one guy here I think you should all. I only wrote his name. He's in the Hall of Fame. I think you should look at the statistics. A guy named John Clarkson. He pitched 12 seasons. Can anybody guess how many wins he had? 12. Oh my God! I just say he was the Hall of Fame, you nut. 320
for being there before it was a Hall of Numbers.
Yeah, that's true. 327 wins in 12 seasons. But look at his 1888 season and see what he did. It's amazing. We have a few minutes here. 13 minutes. I'd love to take some questions.
Curveballs, Eric. When did those?
Curveballs. Someone earlier mentioned, when I said about early baseball, I said it was a first grade pitcher. Someone said
Cummings. Kenny Cummings.
he's the first to, he claims it. Fred Goldsmith, another guy who claims throwing the curveball. It's all been attributed to Candy Cummings. Supposedly he's throwing seashells in the water and he sees some curve and he tries to emulate that with his hand. I pitched a lot underhand. it's tough to curve that ball. If you go by the strict rules for the let's say 60 season, you're not supposed to really do anything with your hand. It's just supposed to be like this. Whenever you get spin on the ball, you have to do something, don't you? You got to spin it somehow. So
what would the umpire have done during that time when that first happened?
well, that's a good question. It's really impossible to tell, to see what you do with your hand as you're pitching. Unless you're pitching like Gary, you're going like this. You can see with his hand. But if you're coming through, you can't tell if I turn my hand over, you can't see that. So they would never call it. I don't have any reports of everybody complaining, hey, this guy's throwing a curveball. How is he doing it? There's none.
I've had batters say to me, as an umpire, that he's spinning the ball. And if they complain, I think it's my responsibility to remind the hurler that he's not to try to deceive the batter.
Right, now if I was the hurler, I'd say every time the ball goes in my hand, it's spinning. How do you know?
Yeah, but I mean with the ball, with your open hand. Right. Feels, we've got a pitcher that pitches almost like a knuckleball.
I do that.
And I don't mind that. Right, because his hand is open.
But technically, it's not supposed to happen because you have to snap your hand and throw a knuckleball.
Right. Well, but he does, and his hand's open. I can't find fault.
You can't find fault. Can you actually see what he's doing?
No.
Right.
But I know.
So that answers your question over here.
But I know the basics of it, and until somebody complains, I don't have.
Okay. Yes, sir.
So coming back to the 1860s,
yes.
You mentioned about quick pitching,
yes.
deceiving the batter.
Yes. It's not deceiving the batter because that's within the rules. That you have to understand. That's not deception. And also, let's say I'll get to your question. 1863. There's two lines. There's a guy on first base. I can get the ball. I can do this and then throw home because I don't have to set, right? And the only time you have a balk in the 1860 is if you go home and you don't throw home. That's a balk. But you can fake everywhere else. I can turn around and fake here, come back and throw home because you don't have to set. So go ahead with your question.
Yeah. So coming back. I've only been playing for a few years, and the way I was sort of presented was when you hurl, put the ball in play. We're trying to get the ball in play a little bit. Now, I recognize you as a hurler might have a different perspective.
Yeah.
So I respect that. But as a batter, if I'm standing there, I don't have an obligation in 1860 to swing at anything until I'm warned.
Well, right, sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So if somebody's trying to do this all day long, I'm just going to.
Yes.
There.
Well, if you have an umpire,
down, right?
if you have an umpire that knows the rules and the pitcher's constantly throwing hittable balls, no zone now in 60, hittable balls, he should be calling strikes on you. If not, you're gonna have people sleeping, in the audience, right?
We've had matches where there's a lot of antics going on the mound, where it's like, come on, let's get the ball over the plate, let's get the ball in play. So I'm just curious your perspective on that.
Well, I say. Unlike the thinking of the 1860s is, well, just put the ball in play, let the defense decide the game. Crichton proved that the pitcher could be so effective that he could change the rules, and in fact, he did because in 1863, his name appears in the rule book as they put the second line in to stop Crichton-like pitching. He's the only guy in baseball history in the 19th century to have his name applied to a rule, and a rule applied because of him. Let's say the 60s, because Kurt Welch came in the 94 season that used to put his hands over the plate and get hit by pitching on purpose. So in the 60s, he was the guy, first guy ever to have that, a rule written against him. So, with a pitcher, he used it as a weapon. And the first guy, his team used him as a weapon, where before that they weren't. They were just laying it in there. From my own perspective and my own experience, Beth Page, we have some big hitters. The pitchers doing anything to get killed. You know what I mean? Why would you put yourself in that position? Why? It's crazy. You want to pitch. You don't want anybody to get on base. Listen, the guys behind you don't have gloves. You want to put that in their hands, or do you want to make them hit it where you want to hit it, where they have the best chance to make a fielding play, not getting a full piece of the ball? To me, that's the way to do it. You want to go up there and lay this watermelon up there, and the guy's going to hit it 400 feet. That's no fun for me, right? You want to try to not deceive him, but get him to hit where you want to hit by slowing the ball, throwing a little higher, a little lower, speed, change. You want to just change speeds, and that'll really offset the batter. Yes?
I mentioned my outfielder is a 402 feet.
Yeah, I've seen that. I've seen them behind trees. I've seen them in trees.
My question really was about pitching, and maybe you could date and add a little bit of historic note to. There's something I remember and I think it revolved around Welsh and Keith. It was about this style of pitching that New York used, where they bent forward at the waist and they were throwing with their arm straight from the shoulder.
Yeah.
And there was some controversy about that. Do you remember anything
But
about that?
I don't, but there shouldn't be, because
Yeah,
they're,
but it was the other teams that were complaining, which you saw all the time. If somebody had an advantage, then the other teams were complaining.
absolutely. The only thing I can think of is, if they're doing that, that somehow the rule was, when
If
the box,
it was those two players, it was what, about 1882, 1883?
3, 4, 5, 6, yeah. I'll tell you why I think the controversy comes in. When the box comes in 1874, technically, it said that this box, the lines go to the sky. You have to start and stop within the box. So if they're bending over, and they're throwing they're outside the line, that could be the controversy. But they're still...
They're very exaggerated. I think they were like almost sideways. Their arm still was parallel with, or never went
Right.
on the shoulder, but they were able to throw in a straight line with greater speed than the other players.
There should be no controversy unless they're outside the line, because not until 87 did you have to present the ball to the batter. You have to actually stand there, as they showed before at the tee, and show the batter however you want to, here's the ball before I throw. So there
What
should
year
have,
was it? You said
87 that started. 87. Any other questions here? We have 5 minutes. Yes.
You and I were talking earlier about
yes.
lines, and we had an issue down in Maryland where a pitcher would start, let's say, the back left part of the pitcher's lines, and then he'd actually jump or skip or run, and then throw. That's when he starts hopping, skipping, and running around the box. That's his motion, so the runner can advance, can move, and he cannot attempt to pick the runner off.
Right. He makes a good point. As umpires here, if anybody umpires, every pitcher has a natural motion before he delivers the ball, no matter what area you're playing, right? So what he's saying is, hey, this guy does this crazy things and he throws home. But what he's doing, he's doing these crazy things and then stopping and starting to pick the guy off. That would be a balk because he's in his natural motion, whatever it may be. If you before I pitch, if I do this, and then I come here and I throw, that's not. If I do this and then throw here, I'm trying to deceive the runner. So yes, the umpire should have watched every.
In the beginning it might be
pitcher.
different, but then towards later in the game,
You shouldn't
the
allow
umpire
that.
should definitely know.
That would be a balk. You should not allow it to happen. You had a question, Corey.
Yeah, what would you estimate a good 1860s pitcher would have for a speed of a fastball?
Probably between 45 and 55 miles an hour at 45 feet.
That's good. Would that be typical, or is that just really good?
No, that would be high.
Okay.
That'd be good. So good would be like mid 40s. All right.
Eric, when did they tighten the strike zone from being that kind of down here to up here?
Okay.
To,
In 1887, when they did all those things to the poor pitchers, what they did was, the only good thing they did was they opened up the strike zone. There was no high-low, it was knees to shoulders. So, true knees to shoulders, okay? Now today it's like this big. Forget it, I can't watch it today. Yes, sir.
As I interpret the 1858 rules, there's no leadoffs.
Well,
You can't,
really?
yeah. The batter stays until it's contact or mass to plate.
Yeah.
And therefore, how would there be a balk if there's no reason for the pitcher to make a play towards first
All right.
base?
We don't have, like my buddy Mr. Schumann, we don't have enough time, but there was never anything written in the rules that said you could not steal. Never. You can read the rules upside, backwards, forwards, it never says you can't do it. So you can't say that.
Said you could though.
What? But they said, right, so they said you couldn't. So, it's like, this big thing like sliding. People say you can't slide. Tell me the rules that you can't slide. It doesn't say it. But just because they didn't do it means that they couldn't do it. Remember the rules, not just pitching, the whole rules in the 1860s wore out of somebody doing something that someone said, wow, that's not common. We're going to put a rule in about this. So,
If you play for the boss lady, you can't slide because you mess up your uniform, and I gotta deal with
that's,
it.
that's another issue. I don't want to get into that either. Someone here, yes, you had a question.
Prior to the pitching line in 1863, was
The
it,
back pitching line, there was always one.
was it legit for a pitcher to be illegal to deliver a legal pitch like a bowler or cricket? In other words, could it run so?
No, very specific in the rules, and it says no round arm pitching just as bowling and cricket. It's,
But as far as a motion, though, you can take multiple steps in.
oh, yeah, because it's one line, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you, if you want, you can start at second base and run forward, you know, and as long as you let it go below here and before you will cross that line, absolutely, yeah, yeah. But again, that second line, the 6-3 is put in because people have million credit and they're getting, so they're doing this and they're coming in like this. So they push that second line, so most guys are just throwing like this and coming through. Anybody else have a question?
I just wanted,
Corky again.
wanted to follow up with the question on stealing. Couldn't you imply when you read the positioned explanations that because a catcher had to be ready to throw for a runner advancing, that stealing was allowed?
Yes.
Because of the way they wrote that.
Yes, very quickly. Very important. If you read the 1860 rules that start with 1860, because they're really elaborated Beatles, they went over the positions. Not only do they have the rules, then they have the catcher, the pitcher. In the catcher's portion of that rule book, it says that the catcher should move up close to home base when there is a runner on, so he does not advance any further. So to me, that means the guys are stealing. Because in 1860, if Doug is pitching and home base is there, and I'm a catcher, no one's on base, I'm staying all the way back here to get a foul tip. Someone's on base now, they say, come up, because this guy may be going. So there absolutely was stealing.
And there were pitch outs too, right?
Well, that's another
Where the
controversy.
catcher would run up and catch it and then.
Well, that, I'll talk to you about that on the side. And I'll just specifically why. But the umpire had the option to warn the pitcher to pitch to the batter, not to the catcher. And that was a way around the pitch outs. Okay. Yes, sir.
I just want to announce, when we go out there today to play, our home field rules that we normally use is stealing on a catcher's muff. So just so nobody gets confused, we'll probably use that same thing today. Just to make everybody aware so they know before we even go out there. And we don't slide, but that's good. You can talk to whoever. I mean, I don't care if you do that today. But if we actually slide, it wouldn't be a foot first slide anyways, correct, Eric?
Well, you know what they would do? I'm going to get on the ground here, my nice clothes that you so personally told me about. When they kind of slid, they would kind of slide here and then reach for the base, you know, like a hip slide and like that. They wouldn't be modern like they are today.
Yeah.
So, anybody have any questions? Because it's getting late. I don't want to hold you guys over.
Thank you, Eric.
That's it? Okay. Hope you enjoyed.